What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Lumsden Motorsports Garage. I'm Wade Lumsden. Today we are going to continue on with basically trying to get ready for Bristol. We're still in the teardown portion of the car. There's lots of things still to look over before you even remotely start going back together. So today we're going to cover some stuff like springs and a couple other things. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you still want to follow this wonderful adventure. You might pick up a cool little tech tips on the way, especially if you're new to this whole modified racing thing. So thanks for joining me, and again, probably like the last video, this is going to be a lot of wham bam, here's information, this is what I'm doing, and moving forward I got to get this thing stripped down, and like I said, before we can even remotely start going back together, assess all my damages and stuff. So it's probably going to be kind of fast paced like the last video. So I hope you enjoy it. Again, like, subscribe, it really helps the channel out, and let's get to work. All right, so one of the first things we're going to go over is the springs, how to check those basically. Things that I have learned along the way that I didn't used to do. When you get a new spring, you should measure the height of it, number it so you can keep track of what spring it is. But you should measure the height of the spring and record that down in a book. That way you can reference that back anytime you start tearing it apart. And make sure that the spring's not, taking a set down shorter than what it should be. But on to the actual inspection of the spring, you're going to reference back to that number and then measure the spring again. And this was a 9.5 inch spring when it was new, and it still measures at 9.5 inches. So this spring is good. That aspect. The other thing you're going to be looking for is make sure it doesn't have any crazy like bows in it, because if your weight jack bolts and stuff aren't lined up enough, they'll kind of get a curve to them. I'll show you with this one. Now I kind of messed up. I don't think I meant to, but I bought a 9.9 inch spring here. It still measures good, but you go to lay it down and it kind of wants to do a little rock and roll on its own. Same thing, tries to take off on you around the floor. And so I decided to take a gander at it. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on the camera here, but you could take a straight edge. This is the best thing I had, to a straight edge, and there's actually gaps. I'm contacted down here and here, and then there's gaps in the coils on this side. But then if I go to the other side, I'm contacted on this coil, and this coil where I had gaps, and then I have a gap on the top and bottom. So this spring is starting to take a curve to it. Now I was going to replace this spring anyways because I don't believe I want a 9.9. It's basically a 10-inch spring. I not really sure how that happened. I think I bought it on a discount garage sale item off a Speedway and probably wasn't thinking about it. I was just like, oh, good deal, buy it. So this goes for your rear springs, front springs. Check those things. Make sure you're keeping record. I didn't used to do it. I'm starting to do it now, of the height of your springs. And of course, if you have that ability, load test your springs. If you have a 500-pound spring, let's say, for every inch that you compress it, the load should go up 500 pounds. So make sure that your spring is still as linear as possible in its rate. So at 1 inch should be 500 pounds, at 2 inches it should be 1,000 pounds, at 3 inches it should be 1,500 pounds. So if you have that ability, check those things, but at least by measuring it and checking for any wonkiness in your spring, you can have a general idea of the health of your springs. All right, so I've started to tear apart my rear end area as well. Got all of my torque links off, my upper rods, lower rods. I'm inspecting these things, inspecting for slop and or roughness in my heims. I'm also checking to make sure that these are straight. If you have a measurement from center to center of what they're supposed to be, because I know some guys have to run a lower bar that have a natural bend in them just to clear their bird cage or whatever. But if you're doing that, if you have a measurement from center to center and you pull the rod off and you set it back and you measure that, it should be the same. If not, it's bent, and then you'll probably want to look at replacing your rods. Okay, so I run a Weir's slider. This poor thing has been really abused. I think it has, somewhere between 75 and 85 races on it. I've been pretty hard on my equipment. So 75 to 85 races on it without a rebuild. I got the spring and everything tore off it. I got the upper cup off of it to be able to get the spring out. And then I moved it through its whole travel, and you can see it's got a bunch of ugly brown dirt nastiness on it. So I'm gonna clean off the top area in here a little bit before I go to take this thing apart. But I need to get it apart so I can, see if anything needs to be replaced inside it. Moving it in and out, it actually travels pretty smooth. I'm very surprised, but let's get it apart. There is a snap ring right here, so go ahead and pull that apart. Awesome. And then I think all you do is you pull up on this and it should come apart. A couple little taps and it comes apart. Yeah. Okay, so the inside of that's pretty nasty, gross. I'll get a good look here for you. That is not great. That's pretty gross. Bunch of dirt, bunch of nastiness. I should be ashamed of myself, honestly. But I'm gonna, air my dirty laundry out to the world. This is a part. There's actually a nut underneath all this really grossness right here. We're gonna take the nut off. We're gonna pull these pieces apart. We're gonna clean them up. See if anything needs to be replaced. Oh yeah, that's gross. See if anything needs to be replaced. Clean this bad boy up and get it put back together. All right, there you have it. So it went, the nut came off, and then this bushing. And this. Man, look inside there, man. That's nasty. It's gross all around. and then looks like a seal. So I'm glad I saw all this. So most likely what's going to happen is I'm going to clean up what I can, and I will definitely need to I'm going to assume with all that dirt and nastiness that's in there, I'm probably going to have to order some new parts to be able to put this thing back together. But when we're done, it should be right as rain, as long as I didn't tear too much stuff up here. Yeah, I have to clean all that out. One of the other things I'm going to end up doing on here that's been neglected like crazy, you see these little pack right here? This is actually a bearing set that goes in between this basket and this nut. So I'm going to tear this apart as well, because I have a feeling that those are going to need to be at least maintenance, if not replaced. So I'll get those torn apart. And this cup actually has a snap ring here connecting this nut and the stack to this cup. Comes apart, cup, and then the nut. Woo! And bearings are probably pretty hammered. I don't know if I'm going to be able to clean them up to look pretty or not. Probably not. Let's be honest. With how much abuse I put this through, I can't believe, it's in as good a shape as it is. That goes for a testament of having good equipment too, man. I mean, Weirs, they got good stuff. Even for guys that are abusive on their equipment like me. So I'm gonna get the parts and stuff I need ordered for this after I get them cleaned up and see what I need, and then we'll go back together and go from there. I'm gonna start doing. We'll need to tear all this apart because I'm gonna do bearings in here. And if the condition of my sliders and stuff were any foreshadowing to what my bearings in my bird cage and stuff are going to look like, I'm going to take all that off, inspect my brakes as well while we get there. But we're going to tear this side apart and see what it looks like, get it cleaned up. So what we'll do is take the axle out. Make sure you're inspecting your axle as it comes out. Brake caliper. One of these 4 little crevices here, there's a set flange. Put the screwdriver under it, get it pried up a little bit. Get your socket. Nut is off. This is the little ring I was talking about. You fold these over into the notches on the nut and it locks it in place. Next off should be a bearing. Yep. Which I usually just take off with the whole hub. Here. First glance, the bearing seems good, but we'll get it cleaned up to where there's no grease in it, and then we'll roll it to be able to see if there's any rough spots and see if the bearing itself needs to be replaced. We're also going to be inspecting the bearing race inside here. Set this down. We're also going to be inspecting the bearing race inside here, see if it needs to be replaced. And of course there's another bearing on this side that we will be looking at as well. So now we got to get the brake mount off here. There's a bolt here and on the bottom that actually clamp this to the axle tube, but there are also two bolts, one right here and one right here, that go into a spot that's drilled into the rear end, into the axle tube, that acts like a pin to keep this mount from spinning. So we'll undo these and then we'll loosen it up. Seems like it's loosened up to slide off already. There we have it. Okay, so another little piece of maintenance on this. I have the Weir's double shear bird cages. Every once in a while, you should be taking these things apart and spinning them to get the grease inside the bearings going around. I have actually been terrible at doing that. I believe these bird cages have like, I don't know, like 75 something nights on them or more. And I think I've only ever done that once, to be honest. So really been rough on my equipment. Try not to be like me. Another thing, these right here, this is where for your shock mount. You should be pulling these apart and cleaning them and anti-seize or greasing those as well. Again, I've been terrible about that too. So what you're probably about to see is when I go to slide this cage off, I'm going to have a very difficult time doing it because I have not been staying on top of my maintenance as far as like spinning the bird cages and stuff. But also when I wash my car, I didn't know this before, but I get in here and I spray all this with a pressure washer as much as I can because I'm thinking, oh, it needs to be clean, it needs to be clean, it needs to be clean. But then I'm just letting it drip dry, which hasn't been helping me. What I should be doing is getting in here as much as I possibly can because there's an open space right here that goes straight to the bearing. I should be getting in here and blowing this off as much as I possibly can to keep moisture, as much moisture out of here as possible. So I bet what we're going to find when I get this clamp ring off and I go to slide this over, that I'm going to have a heck of a time getting this bird cage to come off. So I'm going to give it a shot. Here we go. So that's just the clamp ring that holds it in place. Here we go, trying to get this thing off. Oh, yeah, I don't think it's going to be very nice to us. Hit this with some penetrating oil. Hopefully that'll help a little bit. Trying my best not to hit way out here on the plates, so I don't bend the plates in. I'm trying to make contact with the head of these bolts. That way if I mess anything up, it's just the head of a bolt, which is really easy to replace. All right, so as you can see, that actually went a little bit easier than I thought it was going to, but that's because when I was up in Boone, I made an adjustment and I actually had to slide my bird cage over by 1/2 inch when I did that. But man, that should not be, I should not have to beat and pound on it to get it off. So, and as you can see, it actually left one of the bearings behind, so I still got to get that thing off. Oh boy. All right. Shockingly, actually, this bearing feels really good. Man, I'm really surprised that this bearing, and actually this bearing, feels pretty good. I've abused this equipment. That just goes to show you the quality of stuff that you're getting from Weir's. I mean, they don't sponsor me, but I've been extremely happy with all the stuff I've gotten from Weir's thus far, and just wow, that was that's a testament to what they build. So all right, now that that's off, we are going to I'm going to get this other one off, this back one off, and that'll make it to where I can clean up the axle housing. I'm going to swap the bearings in the bird cage just because they have so many nights on them. I feel like it's the safe thing to do. It's out. I might as well do it. For the hub assembly, I will be packing the bearings, most likely changing the bearings anyways because I'm here. There's actually a seal right here on the inside that I will probably be changing out as well. But we'll go over putting it all back together when I get to that point. Now I got to get the other side torn apart to the same point as this side so I know everything that I need to order as far as parts and stuff go. Alright guys, so that's pretty much going to be it for this video. I'm still going to do some things off camera that you don't really, at least I don't think you guys really want to watch. Like I'm going to take the body off. I'm going to take some of my weights and stuff off. But that's all just kind of some basic teardown stuff. I'm going to put all that to the side and I'm going to do some cleanup. I'm kind of now to the point where I'm going to be waiting on some parts. So I'm going to do cleanup around the car, of course, clean up all the tools that I strew all over the shop, and get myself all prepped and ready for when those parts actually show up, that I can start getting to work. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, getting ready to go to Bristol, so if you want to go along for that adventure, like, subscribe. If there's anything that you want to make comments on, whether there was something you would have done different or something that you do better, comment below. I'd love to hear those comments, and of course, if I can learn something, that's great too. I hope there was some useful information in here for at least some of you. But again, like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next video.